Good morning, cuties and comrades. I think we're a little crooked today, but we'll live with that. It's a beautiful day in history, and we've got critical work to do. I'm Sarah Mishnick, and I'm here to be your critical thinking coach as we work through the 5 dimensions of what it means to be a critical thinker. Today is Thursday, which means we've worked our way through the colors. See, you should see more of my stuff. I need a better setup, huh? Instead of this wobbly one. Okay, it's all good. Okay, so we're working our way through the colors of critical to explore the 5 different dimensions of what it means to be a critical thinker. Today is independence. So we're going to be talking about independence, which is the fertile soil which critical thinkers thrive in. You cannot have critical thinking without independence. It's like it's the most important or something, but it's not. We talked about that yesterday. No need to rank these. They are all working together and they're all super essential and consequential. It's all intertwined. So it's like one of the most important things, that's for sure. So we're going to be exploring knowledge of the people, by the people, for the people, to explore some concepts behind why independence really matters. But first, I wanted to show off some of these little things you might notice. This is a little, it could be a sticker, maybe for Patreon members, I'll make it a sticker, but it says knowledge of the people, by the people, for the people. These are for my Patreon membership for as low as $1.50 a month. So if you want access to these cool little stickers that aren't stickers yet, there's just a printable right now, but like, hey, support me on Patreon. I can do some stickers. And then we have some little signs here that say that can welcome students into your critical space by asserting 2 claims that like have kind of been left out of school. I don't know why we don't explicitly address this because it's super important. This knowledge may shape your life. Whatever you're teaching them may shape their life, but then most importantly, your life may shape this knowledge. So those are 2 cool little classroom graphics and printables like these that you can get for as low as $1.50 a month on Patreon. So definitely check that out. That's the kind of independent space we want to be cultivating in our classrooms if you're an educator. But if not, if you're just a regular person, hey, happy to have you here. Plus, you guys, that's how you should be treating knowledge too. Even if you're an adult, you are by default, a lifelong learner. That's what it means to be an intelligent species. We are constantly learning in all our interactions, constantly producing knowledge, interpreting knowledge, and using knowledge in our lives. Like, knowledge is a big part of it. So that affects you too. So keep that in mind. You could shape any of this. What knowledge are you going to shape out there today? That's up to you, my friend. That's up to you and your independent mind. So let's discover some independent truths, y'all. Let me toss it in. My lovely of the people, by the people, for the people. Shake it, shake, shake, shake. All right, let's see what we get. Ooh, this one's a quick read. Nice. Okay, so we've got Voltaire, which does not surprise me. He was a serious social critic. I'm going to get the centuries wrong, but like a couple hundred years ago. He was a huge social critic, especially definitely a liberal voice, and who definitely embodied this ideal. Minds differ still more than faces. It's a very cool way that we don't often think about, that our minds are as unique as each of our little faces. We have, just like each of our faces are authentic to ourselves, so are our minds. So let me read what my notes are. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these notes because, yeah, y'all get this. This is pretty self-explanatory. But why does this matter to us today, and how can we embody this? That's really what it means to be a critical thinker. Is like, okay, yeah, like we know this. Maybe no one said it explicitly like Voltaire just said it, but like he's just evoking a truth we all know and he named it and I like it. But what do I do with that? And like, how can I take that up in my life? So, to be independent is to showcase that your mind is different. No one's going to know your mind is different if you don't share it with them, because unlike faces, minds are completely private. We might have no idea. If you never let us in, you could totally mimic other people and never actually share any authentic thought. So this is where it really differs from the face, right? Is that it requires a different level of action and engagement to showcase your independence, right? With your face, you just show up, unless you're like an identical twin. I guess that's a different experience. So interesting. But even identical twins, like, are they really? How identical are they? Like, really? I don't know. I'd like to see. I'm sure they could see, they could tell. If they could tell, if they could look at a picture or whatever, if they could identify themselves from their twin, then they know. Anyway, I'm not gonna go down any further this strange rabbit hole. But to showcase your independent mind rather than your face, where you just show up and you're automatically different, you have to engage in action to show that your mind is different. It is not obviously apparent, right? Even though we all know this truth, we often do tend to think also, because we can't see each other's minds in the same way that we can see and judge each other's physical appearance, we assume everyone's minds looks like ours, right? Which really is funny. That should really be the takeaway from this piece of wisdom, is just like you don't expect to show up into a space where everybody looks like you and, like, I mean, literally identical to you, why would you expect them to agree? Why do we expect that we're going to all come to consensus? Yes, I do think that, that isn't a bad conclusion that we've come to. I think that does. I'm going to revere I'm going to revere our choice to engage in that behavior. First of all, we're submerged in our own mind, right? We think our perspective is the only perspective, which you can't really blame us for. We have to like learn how to objectify that and see beyond that. But really, really with this, oh no, I completely lost my train of thought. Oh man. Okay, so I'm reviewing why we show up. Okay. So not only are we submerged, um but also I think, just like we were talking about, how we all know this, right? And what Socrates was talks about, which I say all the time, is that education is about evoking truths from within, and an educator doesn't teach you something new, they teach you something you already know. The greatest educators do. So that, I think, is why we enter spaces and think everyone's going to think like us, is because we think we've found those truths. We think our perspective is always the most truthful one. And Rick Roderick, who has an amazing philosophy series on YouTube, seriously, I consumed it so many times during the pandemic. He's a great educator. Like, if you want to learn from anyone, learn from Rick Roderick. But he talks about this and how, you know, oh no, I'm losing it again, you guys. My independent mind is really running off the tracks today. But he definitely talks about this. And yeah, I'll leave Rick Roderick. See, I got off on a train there. I shouldn't do that to myself. Okay, but so I'm not surprised that we show up and expect everybody to think like us. But we don't. Here's what he says. Here's what he says. Okay. I'm coming back around. You wouldn't hold on to your views if you didn't think they were right. Everybody thinks their view is right. And so that when I'm talking about Socrates in that same time period, the Greeks knew that when you guys, I am really off the tracks. Man, did I not get enough sleep last night? Okay, so he says we wouldn't hold on to our views unless we thought they were right. So the only way we're not going to have new views forced upon us. The only way in Greek society, like with Socrates, was to come up against another person's truth and be like, oh my gosh, wait a second. That's more right than my truth is. That's more right than my truth. Okay, I'm back. Man, I need some coffee or something, right? Jeez, this has been a week. Okay, so that's what we're trying. That's the mindset we should enter in as independent thinkers in any space. It's like, okay, let me recognize as I enter into dialogue with others that my independent mind, I've come to some powerful truths because I have a powerful mind and I'm an intelligent being, and my independent mind has come to certain conclusions. However, as an intelligent being who's in this process of continually growing and shedding old views that weren't correct, that's happened so many times. I've confronted so many other people's truths where I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take that one. Just like I've taken this metaphor from Rick Roderick because it's a really great metaphor, even though I got distracted multiple times and lost the train. Forgive me, Rick. That's what we're meant to do. So we're meant to be finding better ways from other people. That's what we do. We, as creatures, like y'all, what is the first thing we learn about humans? Is that like we learn how to use tools? This is one of the amazing things. Look at these other animals who learn how to use tools. Yeah, using tools is like this super vital thing to the human experience. And knowledge is one of those tools. And the logic on which you stand is one of those tools. So you should be looking for upgrades all the time. Just like, man, any, there are some good old fashioned classics, right? Like do no harm. That's a solid hammer, man. Hammers are never going out of style, right? Construction people, they're never going, I don't know. That's certainly one. I don't technology. Where are we going? Will we always have hammers? Who knows? But I'd say that's a classic, do no harm. And so, but other ones we want to keep upgrading and like, oh no, I could adjust this feature. And just like with any iPhone, how pissed would we be if iPhones were still as slow? I mean, they have planned obsolescence and crap like that. So it's not like they're on some amazing progress, but they do have to progress because people expect it, because that's what human life is. We evolve. And so anytime you enter a space, you should say, okay, I have independent, unique perspective. And within me, I'm trying to be as truthful and as truthful to my experience and as accurate to reality as I can possibly be with my knowledge. Okay. In doing that, I recognize that I'm growing and I am not the same person I was 10 years ago. God, there are Bible verses like this. There are quotes from the founding fathers like this. You don't wear the same coat you wore as a child as you do as a man. And the same thing, or woman, or non-binary person. You don't wear the same stuff. And your life's always changing. If you had the same underwear you had like 15 years ago, I was going to say like 10, but I might have some comfy ass underwear that's like about that old. So 15 feels fair. But like they're solid. They're solid pairs. You hang on to the classics is what I'm saying. You only update it when it's a problem. I'll stop talking about underwear now. But anyway, you should recognize that you have the best possible truths you can have, but that you're in evolution, as is everyone else you meet. And by recognizing your own independence and fallibility, you're going to notice everyone else's too. Their views are just as Swiss cheesy as yours. There's holes all in their knowledge too. They're not better than you. You're just as independent as them. You're just as fallible as anyone else. And I think when we enter spaces that way, honestly, we're not going to have such a rejection against experts and things. I think that's been a huge critical issue in our country, is that we don't know who to listen to, so we don't listen to anyone. And that's not going to work, because some people, experts in the medical field, I would say, have expertise, and not because they're better than us, not because, yeah, they're not better than us. They are independent people who have spent their independent time pursuing a particular field, a body of knowledge, just as you have independently been spending your time with different bodies of knowledge. And just as you should be respected when you talk about what you independently know and what you have pursued and sought with your independent purpose, yeah, you should be listened to as an expert in your fields. What are your fields? Other experts in their fields, y'all, we have to trust each other. We have to trust each other. And that has not been happening, because we've really shut down and gotten mad when people don't think like us. Hello. Nobody's mind looks like yours, just like nobody's face looks like yours. So we shouldn't be offended by different opinions, but we need to be respectful to our own independent minds, and like really, really engage in believing in ourselves. Then I don't think we'd be so, and believing in ourselves at like a structural level. I think people also reject experts because we've been told that all minds are the same, therefore they can be standardized on a test. That's literally what standardization says, is that all the minds can be judged on this criteria, and some of you are stupid and not worthy of a good life. You're not worthy of a good life because you, as an independent thinker, suck. You suck and deserve a bad job and a bad life and not enough money. What? That's a system that relies on the logic that all minds can be judged on one thing. All minds are so different. That's like judging faces on one thing. Who can show me a standardized method for judging faces? Go on. Show me a standardized test where everyone comes to the same answer, where there's a right and wrong for how faces are. Anybody? Anybody? Voltaire? What do you think about that? If there's no test to determine what standard face is the most attractive or the most, who cares? Who cares of all the adjectives we could choose? That's absurd. Almost as if basing an entire social system off of intelligence, off of a test that, yes, proves that some people are smart and some people are dumb, and that's just how life shakes out. Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. No, that's like testing over faces. Absurd. Minds cannot be judged off one test, 100 tests. That's not what minds are for. Faces aren't for tests. Minds aren't for tests either. It is much more than that. It's so much more than that. Like, even like running a diagnostic check on a computer, like I'm trying to think, like this is a computer that has no limit. This is like the internet. It's like running a test on the internet. How you gonna do that? How you gonna run a test, a standardized test on the whole internet? Because y'all, I have a lot of tabs open, which is why I lost myself. Can I forgive myself for how many times I went off the tracks in the beginning? Man, I really had to gear up there. I'm not letting that happen again. Good night. Thank you for powering through because we got to some good stuff here. Oh man, I'm going to go off the tracks again if I don't stop. Okay. So, I'm railing against this idea that minds can be judged. So even so we are like it's like running a test on the whole internet. Can't be done? Can't be done. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, we can test, connectivity. Or there are different things we can test, but like you're never going to be able to run a whole test on the internet. Plus, even more than the internet, I don't know. I think it's like a universe in here, y'all. It's a whole unbelievable thing, the mind. So, like, don't come telling me that there is a single test or a series of tests that is going to capture the minds in such a way that justify an unequal order. I won't stand for it. I won't stand for it because it's based on faulty logic. This is so obvious to everyone. Okay. So, yeah, reject standardization just like you'd reject someone telling you, this is the number one prettiest person on the planet. This is the number two prettiest person on the planet. Intelligence is like that too. So make sure you treat yourself like that. Don't be judging. What are you judging yourself off like? What? Who are the smartest people? Who cares? I don't know, some rocket scientist or heart surgeon or whatever. Those people, yeah, they have independent fields of knowledge, which is great. We love that. But like, what's that have to do with me? And why should that and how they spend their time and spend their intelligence and spend their skills? Those are critical skills. No doubt, no doubt. But like, that's like comparing us. I won't keep going on. I think I've made my points. Faces, minds, you can't judge them by a single criteria. Okay? So be kind to yourself. Don't put yourself in these tiny boxes. Man, your mind is beautiful, just like your little face is beautiful too. Darn it, that face is beautiful. That body is banging. What? Banging and meant to bang. Am I right? Hell yeah. And your mind is banging, and your mind is meant to bang. Like, get out there and bang around with your mind. Oh man, today is gonna be a day, y'all. Thank you for joining me on the colors of critical. You be independent out there with your pretty face and your pretty mind. Love it so much. No one can judge it. It's yours and it rocks and it's authentic. Voltaire says so, and so do I. Thanks for joining me. Have a colorfully critical day.